you've covered extraordinary amount of news events, from 9/11 to Oklahoma City bombing to OJ Simpson to many different stories. Which story has really impacted you the most?
Well, I think I'd have to say the Oklahoma City bombing story, since I met my wife there. I think 9/11 most deeply, but I'll say something about Oklahoma City, because I think, yes, I mean, personally, to see my wife doing something that she's so incredibly talented at doing, representing her country. She was in the Army. At that time, she was, a federal prosecutor. That was also an example of government at its best, investigative work and delivering justice. And, we forget, because of 9/11, how painful that episode was for the country, and how riveting the trial was of Timothy McVeigh. And I remember, that, so my wife in particular, and I write about this in the book, gave the summation arguing for the death penalty for Timothy McVeigh, which, I'm reminded of at home occasionally. But she said, remember McVeigh said because that he had courage to do what he did, because he was clouded in his judgment with this revolutionary zeal that the tree of liberty should be, refreshed with the blood of tyrants, the Jefferson quote. And so misguided in his view that he would kill innocents the way he did. But he held himself out there as a veteran and as somebody who was courageous. And I remember Beth, arguing. She said to the jury, "Look into his eyes and tell him he's no hero, that he's a coward and he deserves to die." And that was very powerful by my wife. But in addition, the system that he so abhorred and wanted to bring down ultimately agreed with her assessment and gave him more justice than he deserved, and that he would give anyone else. And that's the greatness of America. And that was, I think, just an example of that. I just say a word about 9/11. I think, it was the most painful episode as a journalist covering a story, because I remember I was with Bush on 9/11 and we got stranded down in Florida, but then the day he came here for the first time, I was on Air Force One that morning. And I remember I was really emotional that morning, because I was watching the Today Show and all the stories of loss, and I couldn't, my son even hadn't been born yet, but I was so emotionally impacted by that. It was very hard to kind of, steady myself. And, but it's just a powerful time for the country, to go through kind of collective grief like that. And I was so impacted by it, because I realized that I was in the middle of a momentous time in our history that we would always reflect on. And I was there reporting on it firsthand, day by day, the lead up to the war. And I just don't know that I'll ever have an experience like that again.